Disclaimer: the following video that you're about to view only contains audio only, as it's from a wrestling internet radio show. If you are looking for wrestling video footage, you will not find that on this video. This wrestling radio show may contain strong language that may be offensive to those under the age of 18. If you are under the age of 18, please get permission to listen to this episode. Enjoy, comment, and subscribe. Coming up next on the weekend edition of the RCWR Show, we take one final look into what wrestling has brought us this calendar year as 2013 is on the horizon. We go in depth into WWE, what worked for the company this year, what didn't work, what they should do going forward, and we're also going to reveal you, the wrestling fans' pick for WWE Wrestler of the Year. All this and the very latest in wrestling-related news, entertainment news, and beyond. It's the weekend edition of the RCWR Show, and it begins right now.
Hold one, arm drag.
Let's go, start with this. He is broken in half. Whoa!
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
hold two, arm bar.
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hurst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
Hold three, the moss-covered, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., this is the RCWR Show with your host, Lee Sanders.
Welcoming you to the weekend edition of the RCWR Show. I am, of course, as always, the Black Avenger, a.k.a. the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Thank you all for checking out this episode today on December 29th, 2012. We are just 3 days away from the new year. I hope you all are ready, and if you're not ready, I got a couple of words for you. You better get ready. Thank you for checking this episode out right now on blogtalkradio.com. Also heard on Stitcher, and if you don't have that Stitcher app, then you are missing out on all the fun, my friends. Make sure you check that out. You'll be able to play our episodes on all your portable devices, including Android phones, for you Android subscribers out there. Also, thank you for checking out this episode if you are checking it out on YouTube. Special shout out to our YouTube subscribers and YouTube audience. All right, folks, so let's go on ahead and let's jump right into it. Let's rewind back to Monday Night Raw from this week, where it was dubbed the Christmas Eve episode, or as I like to think about it, it was the episode in which many wrestling fans tuned out. They did not look at this episode. Probably a combination of the spoiler results from the dirt sheet websites, and also just because of the context of the episodes, as it was a Christmas themed episode. And the main storyline from this past Monday Night's Raw had to do with good old Jolly St. Nick, Kris Kringle, aka Santa Claus, who unfortunately had got ran over by a car driven by Alberto Del Rio. Try saying that a few times fast. Looked as if Christmas hanged in the balance and little kids were going to be going to bed crying, possibly under the impression that they were not going to get Christmas presents from good old Jolly St. Nick. But Santa Claus would be okay. He would have a full recovery, and he would play a big hand in the main event match where John Cena had took on Alberto Del Rio in a Miracle on 34th Street fight match. One of the most original names for a match that I can think of within recent years, and quite honestly, it was a very entertaining match. Had a nice amount of high spots in it, from John Cena going over to the Christmas tree and just opening up presents, one being a TV monitor that he took to the head of Del Rio, followed up by a bowling ball that he took to the head of Del Rio. That was just fun in itself. Taking some of the presents and just dumping it over the head of Ricardo Rodriguez. A lot of nice funny spots in that match. A lot of haha moments from that episode of Raw, as we did see a fully recovered Santa Claus come out to help John Cena, and Cena picking up the victory from that match. Of course, for those of you that were still a little bit on the fence about who exactly that was portraying Santa Claus for this year, it was none other than Mick Foley. And if the signs were not obvious by those of you that had checked out Raw, you should have known it was definitely him when he pulled out that little sock and he took it to the mouth of Del Rio. That was your giveaway right there that it was him. But one of the things that I think about from this past week's Raw, I think about how entertaining the episode was. I think about how original the episode was. It was a really nice break from the usual programming that we get from WWE all year round. I thought it was a really great experimentation. But, with that experimentation comes a lot of backlash. We were paying attention to a lot of what you all were saying about that episode during the course of the week. And a lot of you felt very alienated by this episode. A lot of you felt that it was downright silly. A lot of you felt that it was downright stupid, that it was a waste of time. Many of you had tuned out from seeing that episode once you had got the gist of what that episode was all about. Also, there was that combined with the fact that this episode was pre-taped. So many folks who probably took a look at the results decided whether or not this was going to be an episode they wanted to check out, or if they were going to pass. And there was a good significant amount of people that had passed this episode by. And, it's so funny because this episode of Raw actually ended up becoming the lowest rated Raw in over 15 years. I repeat, this past week's Raw became the lowest rated episode in over 15 years. You have to go as far back as September 8th of 1997, a year which Triple H was in a triple threat match against the Patriot and Savio Vega, as that Raw has scored the lowest ratings of its time. Well, now the episode that we got from this past Monday now takes the top seed, and it's just one of those funny moments where you take a look back at the great programming that we had got from WWE off and on this year, and you just combine that with what had came about earlier this week. Quite honestly, as I said, I thought the episode was well put together. I thought it was well executed. I really felt it was a nice break from the main storylines that we always get. It really lived up to the Christmas holiday spirit. It was one of those type of episodes that actually made me call up my little cousin, call up my little nephew, and we're all just on speakerphone watching the episode. It was really nice to really get into the Christmas spirit watching that particular episode, as of course no major storylines were pushed. Now, we did see a little bit of the Dolph Ziggler AJ Lee storyline, just little hints of a push as they were celebrating the new holiday by opening up presents and watching the TLC match in which AJ had interfered in the ladder match between Ziggler and Cena, costing Cena a chance at winning the Money in the Bank briefcase held by Ziggler. But other than that, it was pretty much all about Santa Claus, how his life was hanging in the balance, if he was going to be all right. Match-wise, it's really a afterthought. When you try to go back and think about some of the matches that had played out, there really wasn't that much you could take away from Raw. Really, it boiled down to that Miracle on 34th, I should say, Street Fight match. And, it just really kind of made me a little disappointed when I had heard the numbers for Raw the very next day. I was actually in shock. And I know we had wrote up the review for Raw, and we had talked about it at great length this past Tuesday night on the wrestling edition of the RCWR show. And I went on record and I said, honestly, I expected for this episode of Raw to receive decent ratings, but I never would have expected it to get the poor ratings that it did. Now, some would probably want to look at this episode and they would probably want to say, oh, well, it's because it's the holiday time. It's that time of year. It happens. Well, unfortunately, no. Raw has had a history of doing very well around the holidays. Never this atrocious is the best way that I can describe the numbers that it did. And it just really, again, has me in shock because it was a really great experimentation episode. It had a lot of comic relief to it, to a point that it actually reminded me of a episode of a soap opera that's no longer on the air. It used to be on ABC. It was called One Life to Live. And once it was revealed that ABC had canceled the series, One Life to Live, the producers, they were trying to do everything in their power to deliver strong episodes in hopes that the ratings would be so high that it would make ABC executives think twice. And they did pull some really great numbers, but it still didn't help them in the end. But there was one episode in particular that I could recall where it was nothing but a comic relief episode where the producers had decided that they were going to have the cast make fun of their own characters by doing a knockoff version of themselves. And I was just really in euphoria, hysteria, just all over that episode. And I can't help but compare Monday Night's Raw to that, as it really came off as one of those, hey, this is something that we don't see every day from the WWE. I can really go as far back as to recall all the other Christmas Eve, Christmas Day episodes that Raw has done, and has never quite lived up to what we had got from this past week. And I just think that it's very unfortunate that the episode was not taken with high regard. But despite that, as many would probably look at that as a black eye for the WWE, WWE, they still have one more episode to really hit a home run. They do have one more Monday Night Raw for the year 2012. And quite honestly, I would expect for big things to come out of that episode. But for those of you that might have not seen Raw from this past Monday night, I actually would highly encourage you to check that episode out. And if you want to get the full in-depth review from what all you might have missed from Raw match-wise, and my honest analysis on each match, you can check out in our archive section on blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR Show. Also in the iTunes Zune marketplaces, just use the keywords the RCWR Show. You can pull up the Tuesday night wrestling edition of the RCWR Show that we did, where I went at great length to talk about what had happened from that. And if you are on YouTube, you can always go to our channel at the RCWR Show, where from here on out, every single Monday night, immediately after Raw, we'll actually be uploading a 30-minute Raw post show where I give my reactions to Raw, let you know what I liked, what I disliked. Really great stuff. Make sure that you check that out. Something new that we're doing going forward. And I'll give you a little bit more details about that. Let you know why we're going to be doing that. As we got some really big things that's going to be planned for 2013. I highly encourage you to go check out our archives in the section there that I mentioned before, if you want to get the 411 Mondays episode. And of course, you can check out our coverage of WWE Raw every single Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on Blog Talk Radio, as it's the Tuesday night wrestling edition of the RCWR Show. All right, we're going to take a very brief commercial break, but coming up next, we're going to talk about what you might have missed from WWE's main event, where if one bad rated episode of Raw was not enough, how about the shocker that we had got from main event this past Wednesday as seen on the Ion channel? We'll go into details about that. Also get you guys caught up on the very latest and what you might have missed from TNA Impact Wrestling, as it was open fight night. We'll cover all that and cover the very latest fallout from WWE SmackDown this past Friday night. Dip into a little bit of wrestling related news and so much more. It's the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight.
Always on the go and don't want to miss an episode of the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown Radio? Then subscribe to us on the iTunes and Zune marketplaces using keywords the RCWR Show.
Weekend edition of the RCWR Show continues now right here on blogtalkradio.com. So let's talk about WWE main event from this past Wednesday as seen on the Ion channel. And you want to talk about having a bitter taste in the mouth. How about that 20-man battle royal? For those of you that had missed it, this was probably a moment in time which you'll be happy that you did not see it, because had you seen what had happened of that battle royal, most importantly, who won the battle royal, you would probably throw your remote control at the TV. That's just how bad it was. Of course, the 20-man battle royal, the winner got to become the number one contender to face Antonio Cesaro for his United States title on next week's main event. That winner would be none other than, wait for it, it would be none other than the Great Khali. Yes, the Great Khali is now locked to take on Tyson Kidd for that U.S. title next week on main event. I know I can just feel the hatred and the animosity that is going towards Great Khali, and quite honestly, normally I am one of those type of guys, if you've been listening to the show on a regular basis, I try to be as unbiased, I try to be as neutral as possible when it comes to covering the sports, especially from WWE TNA here. But of all the things I've seen over the years, this for me just really has me going, WTF, what's WWE upper management thinking right here? This is just downright stupid, poor booking. Personally, I would have settled for Hornswoggle versus Antonio Cesaro. This is just stupid to me. Great Khali has no business even being mentioned under the same breath as Antonio Cesaro, who has been in the WWE now, the main WWE programming. He's been at it now for about 6-7 months under his belt, and he has really, in my honest opinion, proved himself big time. He's earned his keep in the company, I feel. He's just one of those welcome throwback type of wrestlers from yesteryears, and for him to be put in this type of a predicament where he has to make the most out of wrestling a god. This guy has to stand at least 8 feet tall. He can't really move worth a damn. His legs are bad. His knees are bad. He really has to try to work double time just to make himself and the great Khali look good. I'm really hoping that we're going to get some type of a curveball thrown into this match, or maybe as it leads up to it. I would hope, because I'm really just not feeling this. Just when WWE Main Event was getting so much good praise, it's one of the things that we had talked about a couple of months back, how Main Event has just always been able to produce really great matches. It has quickly became one of the most beloved shows of WWE within recent years. Just come on for a solid hour, 2 really great kick-ass matches. You can't really complain, but here we have this particular match. I'm going to watch it. Normally, I would hear a card like this on a show, and I would just dodge it altogether, but I'm going to watch it out just to see just what is going to happen. But you all that feel that Great Khali has no business being in this match, hey, you're not going to get any argument from me. Honestly, there is just a ton of other people that would have been more qualified to go at it for Antonio Cesaro's belt. Quite honestly, I would have preferred to see R-Truth go at it again. I would have preferred to see Justin Gabriel maybe have a match, or Tyson Kidd have a match. Yoshi Tatsu. There is just a ton of guys that I can just think of, babyface wise, that can really wrestle well enough to a point where they would give Cesaro a really great show. Great Khali just makes no sense to me, but that was it. You know, we did see a little bit of redemption from Main Event. We did see a great tag team match as Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel had teamed up to take on Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre of the 3MB. Nice little way to redeem right there, but still, you have that nasty taste that is in a lot of people's mouths, that burning image of just seeing the great Khali winning that battle royal. It's like WWE, WTF, Vince. Didn't you guys learn anything from when you had first tried to push the great Khali, pushing him as this massive monster, having the nerve to make him become the world heavyweight champion, and putting him in a match against The Undertaker that had no business happening? Haven't you guys learned anything from history? I'm just baffled by this, but it is what it is. Now, let's talk about what happened from Impact Wrestling this past Thursday night, as it was the Open Fight Night edition. We saw Austin Aries call out Bobby Roode as he wanted a match, but he didn't want to do it right then and there. He actually wanted it to be a main event match. As far as Austin Aries is concerned, he knows that Roode was probably still ticked off for his interference in Roode's match with Hardy at the Final Resolution pay-per-view. Ruined the man's chances of becoming a TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and thus Bobby Roode returning the same gesture last Thursday night as Aries had a golden opportunity at becoming the TNA World Heavyweight Champion again. But Bobby Roode had played interference in that, so basically it was a one-up on each other and basically a winner take all in this match. We did not get a decisive victor though, as we saw Jeff Hardy come out at the very end to beat up both guys, deliver Twist of Fates that really just has that seed planted into a lot of TNA wrestling fans' minds that surely this is going to be a case where it's going to be a triple threat match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, right? Well, with only, 2.5 weeks to go until the Genesis pay-per-view, That's what you would think, but we still have not gotten any matches announced yet for that pay-per-view. But from the TNA house shows that they're going to be doing over the next week and a half, one of the house shows is actually going to be having a triple threat match contested inside of a steel cage for the TNA World Heavyweight title. So you're kind of led to the impression right here that maybe this house show that they're going to be doing for the TNA Championship is a little bit of a rough draft, trying to iron out some spots, see what could possibly work out for the Genesis pay-per-view. But with only just a handful of days to go until that pay-per-view, as it's going to be coming up on January 13th, now's the time for TNA to really start selling to those pay-per-view buyers to want to check out this pay-per-view. But hey, I'm all for it. I mean, honestly, a triple threat match, we really haven't seen it in a good minute. We just keep seeing singles matches. I always love it when we get a match like this, especially if it's a gimmick match from TNA. I love it. No complaints right here. Of course, one of the other main highlights from Impact Wrestling last Thursday was the continuation of the Bully Ray, Hulk Hogan, Brooke Hogan storyline, where we had saw last week Hulk Hogan looking at Brooke kiss Bully Ray, pissed off. Surprisingly now, we did not get an appearance from the Hulkster on Impact this week, but we did see Bully Ray and Brooke push the storyline further, as Brooke had informed Bully Ray that somehow Hogan knows about the two of them being an item, and at that point they were trying to go find him to help clear things up, try to play peacemaker with him. Hulkster, though, nowhere to be seen. Loving the continuation and the good, strong development from that storyline. Of course, one other main takeaway, and we can't talk about Impact Wrestling without mentioning this, Aces and Eights. They had tried to recruit Mr. Anderson, man who we have not seen within the past several months, as the last time he was seen, it was just a little bit around the Bound for Glory series, where Aces and Eights actually had took him out. We saw Devon and VP of the Aces and Eights try to offer him a pretty tempting proposition. Mr. Anderson did not jump on it. Instead, he requested that they give him a little bit of time to think things over. And remember how Devon was describing this man that he was trying to get into the Aces and Eights. He described him as young and arrogant. Really matches up to that whole asshole persona from Mr. Anderson. So now the big question mark that's going to be on a lot of people's minds is Anderson going to join Aces and Eights? And as I said this past Thursday night on Impact Showdown Radio, Mr. Anderson needs this right now. He needs to freshen up his gimmick a little bit, because he has this gimmick right now that is at least 7-8 years old. There has been no change in this character. There's been no evolution in this character whatsoever. It's the same thing that we've been getting all these years. It's time to shake things up a little bit, and him being in the Aces and Eights, it would give him a really solid opportunity to really scratch a new surface to his character. So hopefully we see him join. Of course, this past week's Impact Wrestling was really setting the tone for what's to come of 2013, as next Thursday we'll see the return of the Icon Sting. He's going to be looking for retribution against the same people that took him out, those damn Aces and Eights, as I like to call them. I know I haven't said it in a while, but I figure since this was the last RCWR show of 2012, we'd go on ahead and throw in those damn Aces and Eights one more time for you. but he's going to be looking for retribution, looking for that James Brown big payback. First guy he wants to get his hands on is none other than Doc and then Devon. Speaking of Aces and Eights, they'll be in action next week as they'll be in a tag match. They're going to be taking on Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. So great ingredients right there as we have a pretty solid episode of Impact Wrestling coming up. Overall, a pretty well-received episode, I thought. I actually enjoyed the episode better than what we had got from Raw this past Monday night, as it still kind of revolved around the whole holiday spirit of Christmas, but at the same time, it was also kind of brief. Just really another case where it seemed as if WWE and TNA were off as far as pushing really hard storylines and really great storytelling matches, as it was all about comic relief angles. And that's exactly what we had got from Impact Wrestling this past Thursday. You know, if you want to get the full 411 on Impact Wrestling from this past week, highly encourage you to check out Impact Showdown Radio. You can check it out in our archive section and in the iTunes Zune marketplaces. And if you want to catch that episode live, you can do so every single Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on blogtalkradio.com. We're going to take another commercial break, but coming up next, we're going to go in depth in what worked for WWE and what didn't work, and a taste of things to come possibly for the company going into 2013. I'll give you my overall takeaway on that, and we'll also cover the very latest in wrestling-related news, entertainment news, and beyond. It's the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight.
Ever get the urge to follow somebody? Then take a free moment during this commercial break to follow us on Twitter at Infinity1Prod. Also on Facebook at Infinity1 Productions. And just for that, we won't call the cops on you.
Weekend edition of the RCWR Show is back now. Let's switch gears up a little bit and let's talk about what had happened from Friday Night SmackDown this week. As what really jumped out at me, as always with Friday Night SmackDown, as JBL likes to say, where they love to fight. One of the main things that jumped out at me about this episode was how well executed, how well polished off it was. But the running gag of the night of this episode had to do with the Big Show, Sheamus. Now, Sheamus wanted to face the Big Show once again, and he felt that since he defeated the 7'2", 500-pound World Heavyweight Champion on Raw earlier this week, that no doubt it puts him in a position where he can take on the Big Show again for the title. And he actually wanted to get a match with the Big Show on Friday Night SmackDown. But Big Show wanting no part of Sheamus, saying he beat him before and that basically there is nobody on the SmackDown roster that can beat him, that there is nobody even worth his time, as everybody in the SmackDown locker room are nothing but a bunch of losers, rejects, bunch of nobodies. Now, we see Booker T. He says to Big Show, no, you're going to have a match tonight, Big Show. It's going to be against whoever wins a random raffle. Looked like a Powerball type of move that they were doing with this, as they had brought out the little wheel, just like you would watch the Pick 4 lottery selection, and you have the little small balls inside that little circular cylinder. You know what I'm talking about. Well, the person that had actually won that was none other than Santino Marella. Now, unfortunately, Santino would not be able to make it to that main event match because he was getting trained by Sheamus. Sheamus letting him know, hey, if you want to get on the Big Show, if you want to get a victory, you gotta put the bro kick in your move set. Santino wanting to learn the bro kick and combine it with his Cobra attack. Well, he pulled his groin / his leg, call it whatever you want to call it, but he pulled something. He was out of it. Big Show, he thought he had the night off. Booker T, he had something else in mind. He picks another name. The next guy he picks is Alberto Del Rio's assistant, Ricardo Rodriguez. Ricardo, not really too keen on facing the Big Show. Big Show asking Ricardo if he wanted to have a match with him, if he really wanted to try to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. Ricardo kind of giving a nod that yes, he does. And we see Big Show knocking him out, telling Booker T to not waste his time and don't disrespect him like this. Now, Alberto Del Rio would find out what happened to his little buddy. Booker T, feeling as though he needed to make it up to Alberto, decided to put him in the main event match to take on Big Show for that World Heavyweight title. But you know, the real story of that main event match, which ended in a no DQ in favor of the Big Show, we saw Sheamus, led by the entire SmackDown roster, come out. Those same people that Big Show had called rejects, a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of losers, they all actually ended up beating him up, throwing him in the ring, where we saw Alberto Del Rio and Sheamus team up to get the last call on the Big Show, laying him out in the ring there. But the main takeaway from that, Big Show laid out Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio joining forces. If you would have told me at the beginning of this calendar year that Sheamus would be aligned with Alberto Del Rio, I would say, hell no, there's no chance of that happening. But here we see the continued push of a babyface Alberto Del Rio. Some people may like this, some people may not, some people probably just don't care, but I bet you that there's a very small percentage of people that really just don't care about Alberto Del Rio either way. But I think there's more people that really just are not keen on the idea of a babyface Del Rio, but really we just continue to see him get that push by upper WWE management. But how about that to end the final SmackDown of the new year? We see Big Show just laid out, and we see Sheamus, we see Del Rio, we see the SmackDown roster working in unity for really great worthy cause right here. You know, some of the other key points from this episode of SmackDown that I personally had liked, I love seeing Dolph Ziggler in action as he had defeated The Miz. Miz tried to get a little bit of retribution for what had happened to him being embarrassed on his own show last week, as Big E Langston had got involved, as Miz had one too many wisecracks for AJ Lee. You know, this was another case where we saw Big E Langston play a role again. Now, he didn't physically interfere in this match, but he was about to, and it was enough of a distraction for The Miz to focus his attention on him, thus setting up Dolph Ziggler to get the win with the zigzag, to pick up an impressive win over Miz Mazarian. But, you know, post-match, once more, Miz has to have that last little, get that last little jab in. We see him make a wisecrack on AJ, saying, hey, even though the new year is coming, AJ, everybody's going to get a bang out of you. Poor choice of words right there. Miz, as we see Dolph Ziggler go in, beat the crap out of him. We even see Big E Langston come in, lay him out. The main question that's being driven right now, especially from the SmackDown commentator side, is what is going on with AJ Lee? Who is really the brains behind this stable here? Is it AJ Lee or is it Dolph Ziggler? And we could go back and forth on this all night, but if you really want to pick my brain on this, I think that it's AJ Lee. I think she's the one that is really playing this out right now, and hopefully if the WWE creative does this right, they could set this up in a big way where AJ Lee could possibly surpass Vicky Guerrero as a female heel, if you will. I truly feel that she's got the greatest potential in the world. I think she can even go as far as anything Eve was doing heel-wise. But I love what's happening right here with this stable. I love seeing this new addition of Big E Langston. Guy hasn't spoke a word since he's popped up on main WWE programming. But he has such a strong presence. You know, during that match with Dolph Ziggler and Kazarian there was a spot where Ziggler went flying out the ring. And we see Big E Langston, he's not scared. He's not trying to run out the way. He's just standing right there, calmly catches Dolph Ziggler in midair, brings him down, lets him go, and Dolph Ziggler's kind of like, oh, wow, you caught me. Thanks. Damn. I mean, that Big E Langston, that is one quick and powerful dude when he does move in there. I'm really loving that. I can't wait to see how things are going to be happening with him. Of course, we finally did get to see the Shield after they had been missing for a couple of episodes there. Shield giving a very important message to the WWE Universe that they are not done by a long shot. Their work has only just begun, as 2013 is all about cleansing the WWE of the injustice that continues, and they recollect all the people that they have laid out in their quest to be rid of injustice, such as taking out Kane and Daniel Bryan, Miz, Randy Orton, John Cena, Ryback. Their work is not done. We also got to see Brad Maddox. Unfortunately, it was his last opportunity on the SmackDown roster for one more chance. One more match. Yeah, got a little Christian there thing going on. We saw him in action as Booker T put him in a match against Sheamus, of which he lost. But I'm really starting to like this Brad Maddox character. You know, early on, he just rubbed me the wrong way. But man, I really like the way this kid is just coming on. He just reminds me so much of a young Eric Bischoff. He's got that whole personality down, and the kid actually knows how to wrestle. I've actually seen a little bit of his work. I'm quite pleased with this young man. That, folks, is your SmackDown recap of this week. Overall, solid episode from WWE. For those that might have felt a little bit peeved off with the episode of Raw that they had saw this week, I think WWE redeemed themselves quite nicely by giving us a solid episode of WWE SmackDown. Weekend edition of the RCWR Show continues now. Hey, wanted to just take this brief moment here and let you guys know we got a few big things that's going to be coming in 2013. And one of the things that I want to let you guys know about is on January 7th, immediately after WWE Raw, we will be coming on live for a special Monday night appearance. It's going to come on immediately after WWE Raw, so make sure you join us, as it's not every day that we make a special Monday night appearance. And we're going to cover the fallout from that episode, as it's going to be the return of the Brahma Bull, the People's Champion, The Rock. But we're also going to be joined by a very special guest. You may have heard of him. He used to be a special correspondent for the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown, which you can hear on blogtalkradio.com, same website here. And he also used to be the co-host of Sudden Impact Radio, Mr. Diamond K. And he is a Maryland native, just like me. Two good guys over here. We're going to be kicking back. We're going to be talking about what all had came about from Raw, what worked, what didn't work. We're also going to talk about what needs to happen at that Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It's going to be a really great back and forth discussion. Of course, we'll be opening up the phone lines, get you all's reactions. So make sure that you check that episode out and do join us for that discussion. It's the beginning of a new collaboration, hopefully a long-term collaboration, as from time to time he'll be a special guest on our show, and I'll be popping up on his show from time to time as well. It's part of our way of reaching out to some of the greatest minds that cover the sport of professional wrestling, as we are trying to engage in more insightful, more engaging conversations. So you want to check that out. It's going to be a really solid episode. Also, something new that we are going to be doing every other month, and I'm putting the final touches on it right now. We're going to be engaging you, the wrestling fans, in a Google Hangout. That's right. Now, I'll give you guys the date and time. I have to make sure I have that free time available so we can do this. But I was thinking we could just kick back for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and we can just talk about all different types of wrestling. Just pick you guys' minds. What do you like of what's happening? What's got you talking? Why does it have you talking? Really great open forum. Nice way of people to mingle, make new friends, introduce themselves, and just really this opportunity to really be more engaging with you, the audience. So make sure you take advantage of that. As I said, we'll give you guys the details in a couple of weeks, let you know when the first Google Hangout is going to be. So, really great ways that we are trying to improve going into 2013. And I know one of the hot topics that had come into the minds of a lot of listeners was the future of our phone lines, as we did announce it earlier this week. But just in case you might have missed it, we aren't going to be opening up the phone lines on a regular weekly basis anymore. Largely in part to I am looking to make the shows be a little bit more shorter, as I've been getting just a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of burnout. And we're also doing it to really try to help utilize our strengths and where our show is most strongest the most. And although we love doing the show on Blog Talk Radio has been very kind to us, we're also aware that we are really making our mark on YouTube. So that's why we're also kind of cutting back a little bit on Blog Talk Radio, as we are really starting to pick up a great ton of momentum. And if you guys haven't checked out our channel yet, we're very close to reaching a historic milestone, as we had just created that YouTube channel, I believe back in February or March of this year, and we are about to reach 1 million views. Can you believe that? 1 year on YouTube, 1 million views. That's really lets us know that we are making our mark. And, even though we might not be opening up the phone lines on a regular basis, you all will still be able to interact with us in our chat room that's always open every single week. Y'all will still be able to call into the show just to listen to the episode. So you can do it from your home phone, your cell phone. Heck, you can even make the call from your computer if you have that Google phone chat. And of course, we'll still be taking live fan reactions from Twitter, Facebook. So you'll still have plenty of ways to interact with us. But I think we're making up for you guys in a big way with that Google Hangout video. I really think that makes up to you guys big time. So a lot of big things that's planned for 2013. And of course, we are going to be having more guests that's going to be coming by the show. Myself, the lovely co-producer Tammy, Zed, and somebody new that we are getting ready to bring in. We all are going to be working aggressively to bring in special guests to help us out on the show. We're going to have some really great interviews. We're going to be reaching out to some really, really big names, and we're going to make a really big effort to have them come onto the show. So we are just getting started. We've got a year under our belt, and we are very poised. We're very confident, and we are just so relaxed over here. 2013, we have one agenda in mind, and that is to really get the name of the RCWR show out there, because we are probably the best thing that's under the radar right now. So do join us. This is one of the shows on Blog Talk Radio that you want to make sure that you listen to on a regular basis and that you check out every single week, as we are going to be having some really cool things planned on a weekly basis. So without any further ado, perfect segue, let's talk about you, the wrestling fans. We had asked you a couple of months back, as we had a poll that was open, asking you, who did you think was the WWE Wrestler of the Year? Now, on last Saturday's RCWR Show Weekend Edition, we were covering what all had went down with TNA, what worked for the company, what didn't work, what they need to do going forward. We also revealed on that respected episode the TNA Wrestler of the Year. And if you haven't heard that episode yet, it was one of the most listened to, downloaded episodes leading all the way up into this episode right now. Feel free to backtrack to that episode if you missed it. But for now, we're talking about WWE. We asked you, the wrestling fans, a couple of months back, who did you think is the WWE Wrestler of this calendar year? And folks, we've teased you long enough. Let's go on ahead and let's break it down. Let's kick it off with the person at number 5. The RKO, the Viper, Randy Orton. At number 4, yes, no, Daniel Bryan from Team Hell No. At number 3, it is the Great White Sheamus. At number 2, the C Nation leader, John Cena. And let's just pause right there. Let's just look at those names for a second. We got Daniel Bryan, who really had just skyrocketed to the top in WWE ever since he lost that World Heavyweight title to Sheamus in 18 seconds. I mean, can you just rewind back for a minute here, folks? If you would have told me that Daniel Bryan was going to just blow up big time right before this past year's WrestleMania, I would have said, no, I just don't see it happening. What are you talking about? And I mean, you just really go back and you just look at his evolution this whole year. quite honestly, when it comes to a breakout star of the year for WWE respectively, it's quite unfortunate that Ryback had actually ended up getting that award. I really feel that Daniel Bryan is the one that really did break through. But Daniel Bryan having a very successful year as a singles competitor. Think about those great matches that he had for a couple of months with CM Punk over the WWE title. Then think about those great rematches there that he had with Sheamus for the World Heavyweight title before he was separated. Remember how that was when Daniel Bryan really had started to blow up there right after that loss to Sheamus, and they had the rematch, and WWE upper management, they had to do something with those two guys because they realized that it wasn't going as according to plan because the fans wanted Daniel Bryan. They could care less about Sheamus. So what did they do? They had Daniel Bryan just go over to Raw to just feud with CM Punk there for a minute, and just really great part. It was really the only thing that WWE could do because they had built so much hype for Sheamus, having him win the Royal Rumble. They were just really building him up to be a very strong man going into that year's WrestleMania, and it really had hit them in the face big time. Of course, Sheamus, being that fighting champion, had that World Heavyweight title for a good minute. He was just a couple of months shy there of holding it for a whole calendar year. And part of me still feels to this very day that that belt might have been taken off of his hands just so WWE management could really have the emphasis be on CM Punk, as eventually somebody could have sat up and argued that, hey, well, you got Sheamus holding the belt as long as CM Punk. What's up with maybe the two of these guys getting it on? So between both champions, you knew sooner or later one of them was going to have to drop the title. It was just really a case of who's more white hot right now, and CM Punk won by a huge landslide. But Sheamus, being that fighting champion, having some really great physical matches. Of course, he had those back-to-back impressive pay-per-view matches with The Big Show. Oh, was loving that right there. Even though it was beaten over and over and over again into our heads, he did have some great bouts with Alberto Del Rio for the title. Great moments that we saw from Sheamus. At number 2, John Cena, the C Nation leader. Hey, he had a really great match against the People's Champion, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. No doubt, looks as if that these two are going to be getting it on in a rematch, possibly for the WWE title, as I'm pretty sure that WWE creative are still giving themselves headaches, trying to think about how the end result is going to be leading up into this WrestleMania rematch, but it is going to happen. Of course, let's not forget about the night after WrestleMania, where Brock Lesnar had made his shocking return to the company after a 10-year hiatus. F5ing John Cena, setting up a match eventually with the C Nation leader of that. John Cena picked up the victory. John Cena, of course, having a little bit of a rock slide in his career for a good majority of this year, losing the Money in the Bank ladder match against Dolph Ziggler, also losing at SummerSlam. Not really looking too good there for John Cena, but still has been a crowd favorite, has been making up outside the ring as he has granted so many wishes to sick children all over the world. John Cena really being a great leader, a great ambassador for the WWE. At number 1, it should come at no surprise, is the person that you all voted for the WWE Wrestler of the Year. He is the former voice of the voiceless. He is the former leader of the Straight Edge Society. He is none other than the WWE Champion, CM Punk. is your WWE Wrestler of the Year 2012. And what a great year it has been for the WWE Champion, who really, it looked as if his career in the WWE was over with. It looked as if he was going to be moving on to other endeavors, and just all of a sudden, ever since he had that pipe bomb moment, new contract negotiations, he's been given that push that he felt was deserving, and he has really not disappointed the company. You know, he had a little bit of struggles there early on as the WWE Champion, as he was trying very hard to get over as a babyface, but John Cena was just securing that position with an iron grip that there was just no way CM Punk was going to be able to dethrone Cena at that position. So, what does CM Punk do? Well, if he can't become the number one babyface in the company, then maybe he can become the number two heel. And he has done a phenomenal job as that. And even at that, you know, right before Paul Heyman had came in with Brock Lesnar there, we saw a little bit of struggles with CM Punk trying to get over, because many people still looked at him as a bit of a James Dean Rebellion type of character. They were still in love with that, almost like the way they did Stone Cold. Good, bad, don't matter. They still rooted him on. And we just saw CM Punk kind of a little bit in purgatory there, not really sure how to get over as that heel. But you just make magic happen when you pair him up with Paul Heyman. And CM Punk has been able to take things to a whole new other level. Now, some CM Punk fans will argue that this is still the same CM Punk. Nothing really has not changed. He's still the same guy that he's always been. He's just been paired up with Paul Heyman. Others that have been following the career path of CM Punk for many, many years, going as far back as to his Ring of Honor days, many of them will go on record and say that this CM Punk that we're getting is nothing compared to the CM Punk that was in those respected indie promotions, and that he's only a former shell of what he used to be. But say what you will, CM Punk has had one impressive run in the WWE, especially longevity-wise as champion, as he continues to break new grounds, as he is 400 plus into his consecutive reign as champion. It is a feature which really is unheard of in today's modern era of professional wrestling and entertainment. CM Punk is your WWE Wrestler of the Year. And you know, with that, just some of the things that I had talked about of WWE this year with all those respected names that I had mentioned, you know, I can't help but think about the way WWE has gone down this year. And by the way, we do want to take the time out, before I forget, thank you all for casting your votes on that poll, as over 100 of you had let your voices be heard in casting your vote. So for everybody that had cast that vote, thank you so much for that. A lot of people chimed in. A really, really close race right here too. And should be noted, CM Punk had actually won by just a couple of points there. But, you know, I think about what had went down with WWE this year. You know, the one thing that I take away from WWE on a positive, I think about all the great wrestlers that came back to help out the company, and maybe some of the people that came back might have just came back to fill up their pockets, looking for a big fat paycheck. Who knows? But 2012 was the year that we saw wrestlers make a huge comeback. I'm talking about veteran wrestlers. 2012 was the year that we saw Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson pushing almost 40 years old, come back into the ring, and although he did look a bit out of it, and he needed to rely on John Cena to kind of help him get through the match, still at 40 years old, great freaking physical shape that The Rock was in at this past year's WrestleMania. Rock still proving that he can still live to smack it down on candy asses any day of the week. Don't matter how long he has been gone from the WWE, from a WWE ring. We also had sort of the return of the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla, Chris Jericho, who, although probably won't really admit this, his run in the company this time around was one of those type of runs of which he really was just doing too much. I applaud him for coming back and helping get new talent over, but at the same time, he was just getting buried so much. It was just really frustrating to watch, because it was one of those type of scenarios where I'm saying to myself, okay, can we see Jericho get a couple of wins here and there to try to make it look a little balanced out? And of course, Jericho leaving so quickly, as he had the new Fozzy album and the touring getting ready to come on now, but still, it was nice seeing Jericho back in the WWE. Poorly utilized, I feel, but it was great seeing him come back. Of course, Jericho originally, as he would reveal in interviews later, that he actually was not going to be coming back because his back was a little bit messed up from all the years of wrestling, but he did DDP's yoga, was 100% ready to go, gave Vinnie Mac a call, and the rest was history. But Chris Jericho coming back, awesome. Triple H, Undertaker coming back, having one hell of a match which actually had won a respected Slammy Award. Two great in-ring generals. What can you say? And to just think that both men will be lacing up a pair of boots one more time for next year's WrestleMania. I'm looking forward to seeing how these two men play out. Of course, I talk about those two men, I automatically have to go to the next guy, Brock Lesnar, who made his eagerly anticipated return to the WWE after a 10-year hiatus. All these names that I just mentioned, it just really has me sit up and believe that old saying that goes in the WWE, never say never. Anything can truly happen in the WWE. And when I look back on 2012, I just have a smile on my face when I think about those big names that I just mentioned of wrestlers that had returned. But I also think about the wrestlers who really, in some shape or form, got a reignited fire, a reignited desire in their careers. I look at guys like the big red monster Kane. He goes back to pushing a mask, and then he gets paired up with Daniel Bryan, and Kane just becomes so relevant again. Kane actually putting out some of the best wrestling matches this time around than in recent years. Quite honestly, the last time Kane has really been this relevant, this good, I believe he'd have to go as far back as when he was the World Heavyweight Champion, and he had 3 straight pay-per-view months where he just got a victory over Big Brother, The Undertaker. Great moment right there. I just talked about Kane and Daniel Bryan. Let's also look at the big plus that had happened from WWE this calendar year. You take Triple H, the Vice President of Talent and Live Relations. One day he's going to be getting a hold of the entire company. You know it's coming. And one of the things that Triple H set out to do, that was one of his main pet projects, was revitalizing the tag team division, as the division was not what it used to be back in the day. The division just wasn't what it used to be in the 90s, and Triple H, he wanted it to go back to that point, but then some. He actually wanted it to get back to that point where you could take a tag team like the Rock and Roll Express. You could take a tag team like the New Age Outlaws. You can take a tag team like the Legion of Doom. You know, you can take a tag team like Team 3D. You know, Triple H wanted the tag team division to really be relevant again, because remember, folks, you could look at some really good wrestling matches from veteran wrestling promotions back in the heyday, and used to be able to tell who could possibly be that next breakout star, who could potentially be the man of the company. So Triple H, making it his business to get the promotion, or make the division rather, get back to that point again. I just applaud him for that, because he takes Kane and Daniel Bryan, and it's a move that I had predicted earlier on this year. I said, you know, if Triple H is going to be going out there and he's going to be trying to figure out a way to make the tag team division become relevant, I went out there, I said, those are two guys that he could use to try to make it be relevant again. And by having Kane and Daniel Bryan become the tag champions, it just set a fire spreading across the entire division, where we just see new teams just come from out of nowhere, such as Cody Rhodes, Damian Sandow, the primetime players, Titus O'Neil, Darren Young, the Usos, Jay and Jimmy Uso, Sin Cara, Rey Mysterio, Tyson Kidd, Justin Gabriel, Primo, and Epico. You just look at all these great tag teams, and they really, all of them respectively, have a lot that they can bring to the table. All those great tag teams that I've mentioned, they've really lit up a storm in the division, and it is must-see TV whenever you get a tag match now. And I just applaud WWE for putting that emphasis back on the tag division. Another thing that really stands out in my mind this year, speaking about that revitalized tag division, let's also look at the new amount of talent that has come out of the WWE this year. You know, we had the same arguments that was being said earlier this year from hardcore WWE fans that were frustrated about seeing the same rivalries over and over again, about seeing the same stars go at it over and over again. And what happens? We don't even get a Raw draft or a WWE draft, which really had set off a lot of people as they were wondering what was going to be happening with that. We actually get something better than that. We just start getting new talent. We get guys such as Damian Sandow, who really has just been one of those performers that no doubt is going to be a future WWE World Heavyweight Champion. That guy is just an all-around great athlete. He is just lightning in a bottle. Every single time that man has a match, I am always entertained. I am always glued to my set. There are not that many men that are able to catch my attention the way that Sandow is able to do so. You know, another breakout star that comes into my mind rather quickly is Antonio Cesaro, who actually came about around the same time as Sandow. Cesaro little bit rough with the beginnings there as he was teamed up with Ascana, but slowly, surely, he just started to become more and more comfortable with himself and his ability. Seemed like, as before, he was lacking in confidence, but he got it in time, and now look where he is right now. Another guy that is going to be a future Impact player for years to come. Hey, I'm talking about these new breakout stars. I have to talk about Skip Sheffield. Come on now, a.k.a. Ryback. Probably the best thing that happened for Ryback was getting that injury as Sheffield, and he's on the sidelines for a good minute. He might have been questioning himself, questioning whether or not he was done with the business. And he comes on back, he gets repackaged as Ryback, and the rest is history. This man, out of all the new stars that has come about on main WWE programming, this man has really skyrocketed to the top in the WWE, working with the likes of John Cena, CM Punk. Pretty soon he's probably going to be rubbing elbows with the People's Champion, The Rock. Rubbed elbows with Kane, Daniel Bryan, Ric Flair recently. This guy has really been making a hell of an impression on me. It was one of those moves that had a lot of people pissed off, irritated, people actually making 10-minute videos bashing the guy. And I know when I first saw this man get pushed the way that he was being pushed, my concern was, okay, is he really ready? That's the thing. And you just fast forward to now, as it's been a couple of months now, at least about maybe 6, maybe possibly 7 months that we've had Ryback in the WWE here. I can't help but actually say, yeah, it looks like he wasn't quite ready, but WWE, they still pushed him. And Ryback is another guy, when it's his turn, he is another one that is going to be getting a push. Make no mistake about that. That is a future WWE World Heavyweight Champion, whether some people like it or not. Of course, we talk about new stars that have been developed. It doesn't get any bigger by the Shields, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Those guys known in the indie circuit, especially Dean Ambrose there. Dean Ambrose known for his work in Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate. Seth Rollins, similar type of background. Really great young guys right there who had one impressive debut at the TLC pay-per-view, really making their mark and earning their keep in the WWE. They were so poised with confidence at that TLC pay-per-view. If there were any butterflies, I did not see any. That is just how confident those three men looked in their debut match. Talk about doing it in front of a New York crowd. If you can't make it in front of a New York crowd, then really your career is over. And they really had set their mark in that TLC tag match at the TLC pay-per-view just earlier this month. Great moment for them right there. I see nothing but big things happening for them in the company. And of course, we got new stars in Brad Maddox, who has really reminded a lot of folks of a young Eric Bischoff that can actually wrestle. Nice big things happening for that man on the horizon, I see. We also have a new guy that really just came to the scene, literally, Big E Langston, as he's aligned himself with AJ Lee and Dolph Ziggler. You look at all these stars, and in particular, you look at the Shield, you look at Big E Langston, and you think about that connection that those men have. with the NXT developmental territory by WWE, and really great utilization of the NXT territory. Here is a perfect scenario right here where WWE, they really cleverly, from a marketing standpoint, they just executed a very brilliant move, I feel, in getting the fans interested and want to feel invested in checking out the NXT promotion, aka FCW, trying to see what's happening with that now that you have those references there, as everything is connecting. So it's like, if you want to know what's going on with Big E Langston, where's he from, where he's been, now you have to kind of do your homework and find out what's going on. But for those fans that have been there from day one, such as with Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, that was probably a mark out moment from them the minute that they saw them make their WWE debut. But overall, when you talk about stars that have been created in WWE just this year alone, really a superb job has been done by WWE. I can't give them enough props for that. You know, I've given all this great praise. Now let's talk just a little bit about some of the negatives that has come about from WWE. You know, we saw a little bit of overkill there with their use of social media, as every single week, every single episode, you were just getting bombarded with, oh, this is trending. We have this tout video. We have this coming in now from Facebook or whatever. You know, way too much usage of the social media there. And I know earlier on it was one of those type of deals where it was a really major buzzkill, but it kind of downplayed a little bit now. However, I would just like to see it be removed altogether. I just think that really is just too distracting. And quite honestly, you can't really believe some of the things that's trending, as it could be just something that they've created at their own accord just to try to generate some type of buzz. We all have done it in some type of line of work where we're trying to create self-hype. It happens all the time. But, you know, one of the other things that I look at that WWE really needs to improve on, and it speaks large volumes to me, they need to improve on what is going on with these 3-hour episodes of Raw. Now, I know we have a lot of people that will be very quick to sit up and say, hey, WWE, they should just go on ahead and they should remove the whole 3 hours altogether. Unfortunately, I just don't see that happening, folks. I think what's going to end up happening, what's really going to need to happen with that, is WWE is going to need to sit up and they're going to need to figure out ways to make this show more engaging, more creative. They need to figure out how to be a little bit more aggressive in attracting viewers. And honestly, I think one of those type of ways, the suggestions has already been put out there to Big Daddy Vince, is to make the show be more edgier. Now, he's a little bit on the fence. We can understand. He wants to try to keep that PG rating. He wants to try to please the advertisers, everybody. He wants to try to keep it as friendly as possible and keep bringing in the revenue that he's able to bring in right now. And I respect that. I get that. I respect the game. But I do agree that the show does need to become a little bit more edgier. Now, some would argue, does it need to be as edgier as a TLC? Does it need to be as edgier as TNA wrestling? And I do think that
it would serve them right to go that level, but they could still be PG friendly, I feel. Whether or not they're actually going to go that route and making the product be more edgier remains to be seen. But overall, this is one of the moves that sooner or later it's going to have to be addressed. Now, for those of you that are sitting up saying to yourselves, well, why don't they just go on ahead and they just remove the 3-hour status altogether? Unfortunately, that move is not going to happen, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Recent numbers had came in from a press release by the USA Network, and they're actually very pleased with how the 3-hour episodes of Raw have been doing. It's meet their expectations. They are quite pleased, and with that seal of approval, this is something that is going to continue to be ongoing at least past the first quarter of 2013. So some of you may not like the fact that Raw is 3 hours. The best advice I can give you for that is put it on your DVR and then just go blazing through all the commercials and whatever else might be silly and get to the main parts of the show. But it looks like the 3 hours is going to be staying. But I would like to see more edgier content from the WWE. And honestly, I think one of the pieces that they could use in making the show be more edgier, I wouldn't mind seeing the Divas division go back to how it was during the Attitude Era there. Seemed like it was a little bit more TNA, if you catch my drift. I would like to see it get back to that point. And speaking about the women's division, going into 2013, I would really like to see WWE make some type of a full commitment to the Divas division and really get it relevant again. I teased this earlier a couple of weeks back, but I can't stress it enough. WWE, they really need to go test out the independent markets to those wrestling promotions out there. They got to test those markets. There are some really great pieces of talent that would just do a phenomenal job for them. One of the people that I think about, and it's actually one of our Twitter buddies, Nikki Rocks. Hello. I think she would just be phenomenal in WWE. Now, creative, upper management, they might look at her as being a little bit too hardcore, but I really feel that she would fit right up there. She would fit so perfectly in that division. You could really make her be a great centerpiece of that division. There's your next Trish Stratus. There's your next Lita, okay? There's your next version of a John Cena, basically. Phenomenal athlete right there. But there are a lot of great pieces of wrestling talent from women in promotions such as Shimmer, such as Shine Wrestling, just to name a couple. And hopefully it gets to that point where WWE tries to test out some of those promotions and see if they might be able to acquire some of those talents. Now, they have some that are in their developmental territory, but obviously they aren't quite ready yet. So if that's really the case, then maybe until those respected performers are ready, they go outside the box and bring in some new talent. But I want to see a new commitment going forward in the new year by WWE and really getting that division to where it needs to go. Because that actually used to be one of my favorite highlights of the week, is seeing the Divas division, seeing some really great competition. I remember how amazed I just used to be every single time I used to see Lita go up to the top turnbuckle and she would do a moonsault or the Lita bomb. I just used to think it was just crazy that she would be able to do that stuff. I just thought she was really hardcore for her respected time. Truly a great piece of talent right there. One of the other things that I'm looking at where WWE could use a little bit of improvement, and I don't know how some people would feel about this, but I actually would not mind WWE kind of cutting back on some of their pay per views. It's something that TNA Wrestling has done as they've cut it from 12 to 10. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing WWE cut it back a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe cut it back to 9 pay per views. As I just feel that a little bit more hype, a little bit more build up is needed. And quite honestly, WWE is at that point right now where they have pay per views on every single month. They have the house shows that they're always doing. Why not cut back a little bit, especially if it means that you'll be able to have your talents around a little bit longer and kind of drop the high percentage of a performer being injured, as we know how the schedules can be for these wrestlers nowadays. And that's pretty much it. That's really my main takeaways from WWE this year. But overall, really a great year for the company, and just with the brilliant marketing strategies that they've been using for social media, getting their voices out there on Twitter, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Tumblr, on Tout, YouTube. I mean, you name it. These guys are just everywhere. They've just been doing a phenomenal job in the way they've been utilizing social media. They have really just set the tone for wrestling promotions to follow, and why other wrestling promotions are not using this same formula when it comes to social media, I have no clue, but they've really set the tone of where one needs to be with their wrestling promotion. And wrestling promotions, they really need to be looking at this. Look at these moves that WWE is doing, as these are some really powerful tools in helping way organization really get over, especially in branching out and reaching new audiences in various territories. Really, really great way that WWE has been utilizing social media. And I just don't see it slowing down anytime soon for this company, especially with the new WWE app that they had relaunched there. I mean, that app, I finally had some time to really sit down and play on it, as one of the Christmas presents that I had got was a brand new iPad, and I was one of the first things that I actually had downloaded was the WWE app, and I had just been on it for hours. I mean, you just combine that with the way that WWE is now making all their pay-per-views be available for all portable mobile devices. I mean, just brilliant strategy from what WWE is doing all around. From the marketing standpoints, the way that WWE has really been branching itself out, you really cannot be too disgruntled with the company. And let's not forget the collaboration that they just had with the Rolling Stones earlier this month for that One More Shot concert, which was well received. And I can only imagine, as we're still waiting for the official numbers of how the pay-per-view buys did for that event. But WWE, they really set the tone right there, that they have what it takes to be in that line of work. They have really opened up new doors for the company in a way where, if they wanted to, and I said this before, but I'll say it again, if they wanted to, they could just leave wrestling altogether, but they probably won't, because they don't want to face that backlash from the wrestling fans. But it's one of those type of areas that you look at, you see them working with major recording artists future is looking very, very bright for WWE. I expect them to do more pay-per-view concerts. I expect for them to work with more major recording artists for special concerts, venues, what have you. The company has just really grown. They've really come a long way from what I remember 15 years ago. Some phenomenal stuff right there. Really hope you appreciated that great in-depth look into WWE there, folks. All right, so we're going to take another commercial break, but then when we come right back, we'll dive into the very latest in wrestling-related news, entertainment news. Not really too many headlines have jumped out there due to the Christmas holiday weekend. We got New Year's coming up, but I'll give you a little bit just to feed your appetite, and I have some really good reviews that's going to be coming up. I got a review for a video game that I have been playing. It's actually in the beta phase right now, but I got my hands on a demo. It's called Pro Wrestling X Uprising. I'm going to give you guys the official verdict for that, so make sure you stick around for that. You're listening to the weekend edition of the RCWR Show. We'll be coming right back in just a few moments, folks.
Always on the go and don't want to miss an episode of the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown Radio? Then subscribe to us on the iTunes and Zune marketplaces using keywords the RCWR Show.
Weekend edition of the RCWR Show is back. Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders here with you all. Let's dip into just a little bit of wrestling related news. Not really too much has happened since last we were on the air with you guys due to the holiday and all. Been a little bit slow, but I got some Ring of Honor wrestling news for you guys, and I know we don't usually cover that much of Ring of Honor wrestling, but I'm very happy to say that from here on now, we will be covering more Ring of Honor wrestling related news, so you guys have a little bit more to look forward to on our weekend editions of the RCWR Show. Looks like the next two wrestlers are set to be competitors in the top prospect tournament at the Ring of Honor TV tapings that's going to be happening on January 5th from Baltimore, Maryland, as the two competitors are Silas Young and Mike Sato. Now, Silas Young has been big of a independent wrestler in the main circuit for years, and recently he just faced Michael Elgin at the Brew City Beatdown. Now, Mike Sato, he's been fighting for a permanent spot on the Ring of Honor roster for quite some time now, and clearly a top prospect win would work wonders towards achieving that goal. Now, Young and Sadell, they already had been announced wrestlers for ACH and QT Marshall in the single elimination tournament. So stay tuned for that. More seems to be coming in development. However, tickets are on sale right now if you want to go to that Baltimore, Maryland event. Just go to ringofhonorwrestling.com for ticket information. You know, speaking of wrestling, great weekend to be a wrestling fan, as we have WWE that's going to be coming to the Washington, D.C. area. And yours truly is actually going to be there. So if you happen to see me, feel free to give me a high five and talk to me for a little bit. I'll be there to watch one of the main attractions of that event, CM Punk taking on Ryback for the WWE Championship. Again, WWE going to be coming to the Washington, D.C. area later today. So if you're in the D.C. metropolitan area, you have a little bit of time. You can actually still grab some tickets. I was actually browsing at some of the tickets online just earlier this week. Lowest you can get right now. Looks like it's about $65. Again, if you see me, feel free to say hello. All right, and I also have some really cool kick-ass wrestling news for you guys. You know, we got the Extreme Rising event that's going to be happening later today. And for those of you that might not be able to catch the event in person,
I'll have you know that you'll actually be able to watch it on iPay-per-view. Now, if you haven't got hip to the iPay-per-view, that's actually pretty cool because you're able to pay basically $9-10. You're able to check out the pay-per-view, and you can pay a little bit more if maybe you want to own that pay-per-view or what have you. A really cool feature to check out if you're not able to be there at the actual event. So I highly encourage you to check that out. But in the meantime, here's a look at the final card for tonight's event. It goes as follows, and folks, the card is subject to change. In the main event, it's a Extreme Rising World Title match as Stevie Richards or Luke Hawx will either take on Rhino or Devon Storm. That's right, we're going to see two semi-final matches, and the respective winners from those two matches that I just named, they will be going head-to-head for that world title match. In the second main event, it's a steel cage match that's chosen by the fans as the Gangsters will be taking on Blackout. Jerry Lynn will be taking on Homicide. Sabu will be taking on Matt Hardy, first time ever. And it is the Extreme Rising debut of Hero de Rey Mysterio, living up to his cousin, the 619 Rey Mysterio, as he'll be in action to take on Bestia 666. And we have Facade versus Jay Bradley. Now also appearing is going to be Papa Don, the FBI, Balls Mahoney. We got Rhino, Raven, the Sandman, the original Gangster, New Jack, the Blue Meanie, Balls Mahoney, Christian York, Jay Bradley, Marco Cordvoa, Joe Gertiner, Robbie Marino. And again, the card is subject to change. Of course, we'll actually be having a very special episode of the RCWR Post Show that will be coming on at exactly 12 a.m. tonight. So make sure that you check that out if you're not able to see that Extreme Rising event, as we'll cover the fallout. I know it's been quite a while since we've talked about Extreme Rising. As remember, we did cover the very first Extreme Reunion event. And yes, that did not go too well, but this time around, looks like this event has the greatest potential to be a really kick-ass event. And I've been hearing nothing but good praise from Extreme Rising / Reunion fans within recent months, that the product has been getting better and better every single event. So we're going to check this out, see how they're doing this time around, and you'll want to make sure you check out that post show, as I'll give you the final verdict on how they're doing. Now comes my favorite part of the show, where I give you guys a review. And this week's review, I'm going to be covering a demo that I had checked out over the week. It's Pro Wrestling X Uprising. Now, this is actually a beta version that I had checked out that had became available just earlier this week, last week, if I'm not mistaken. And I finally had a chance to sit down and play this. Now, it might run different on your respected laptop, and they are well aware that there are a lot of kinks in this demo. This is pretty much just all about getting and receiving first impressions from us that happen to play the game. And I've actually been able to kick back and really take a good significant part in letting my voice be heard during the whole process of this game being developed. And you can as well. It's really easy, and you can actually get this demo for $5, as they have different prices that you could pay for. And the more basically you put out there, the the more perks that you're able to get. I know one of the coolest perks that you can get from putting some money down on this game when the full version does become available, you can actually be a character in the game. No reason to create yourself. They actually do all the work. You just got to send them your pictures and let them know what you want to wear, whole 9 yards. But, you know, this game has so much great history. It goes as far back as 2002, 2003. Now, in spring of 2002, there was a lack of really great wrestling video games, and there was a big hunger for the next WWF No Mercy. And there was just little traces of that, as fans had hoped that maybe they were going to be able to get that in releases such as WCW Backstage Assault. However, fans, they become very disgruntled when that had came out, and they have found an outlet on message boards around the world, filing complaints, frustrations, wish lists for the perfect wrestling game, all chronicled for the world to see. Wrestling game producers, however, dismissed these messages as a vocal minority, a small niche that didn't have the economic clout to be taken seriously. Now, the birth of wrestling games had united, as on April 3rd, 2002, Dave Wisnowski had set out to change that impression. He created a website called Wrestling Gamers United, hoping to combine the scattered shouts into a common voice, one that game producers took seriously. Now, this is a direct quote, as this was from their newsletter in April of 2002. Wow, since the launch of the WGU website less than a week ago, response has been out of this world. My email inbox has been flooded with over 5,000 emails and survey responses so far. It shows me and the game developers just how hungry we are for a better wrestling game. It also shows them that we aren't a fringe minority. There are thousands of us. Now, the fuse was lit in May of that year as gamers' hopes were raised when the announcement of WrestleMania 18, you guys remember that, for the GameCube by THQ. They had promised a worthy sequel to No Mercy, making very deliberate claims its development, telling wrestling gamers exactly what they wanted to hear. However, when WrestleMania 18 was unveiled at E3, something became obvious. Say it with me, folks. THQ lied, and we all don't need to go into details about that game. In retrospect, that was probably one of the worst WWE games of all time that had came about from THQ that far. You know, I actually enjoyed the hell out of Raw for the original Xbox. It's actually one of those type of games I actually find myself going back to this very day. I don't know about you, but I just thought a lot of the stuff that you were able to do on that game was just ridiculously endless. I actually thought that was probably the closest that you could come to No Mercy. But of course, leading up from that, eventually Dave and crew, they would end up making their own video game studios, and thus that's how they got underway in creating Pro Wrestling X. And you know, it's taken some years, but they finally have been able to really show us some stuff, and they have really been doing a phenomenal job keeping the fans in the loop, letting them see the progress of how the game has been coming along. And it just had finally got to a point, and it's so funny that this happened, but the day that THQ filed for bankruptcy, here we have Dave releasing Pro Wrestling X Uprising, the beta, and I had played this on my HP Pavilion G7 series 1093, and I was using a Xbox 360 controller to play this, as that's how Dave really had laid this out to be able to play it. You could play it on keyboard as well, but preferably he really wants for you to be able to just pick up a controller and play it. And control scheme wise, it's very similar to what we had got from the No Mercy video game. The graphics, it even kind of reminds you a little bit of No Mercy. A little updated though. Definitely has a nice throwback vibe to it. It just seems like it's endless the way that these graphics are. As far as the atmosphere goes, I mean, you're able to go outside of the ring, and just the way that you're able to interact with some of the things in the background. I thought it was nice. Move scheme wise, it needs work big time. Again, this is a beta. A lot of people, they would probably just be really quick to really trash it, but that's not really what it's about. It's just about getting your lips a little wet, but also providing Dave and crew feedback for this. Let them know what's working, what's not working. And that's the cool part about putting money down for this demo, is that you get free updates. So you're always going to be playing the very latest new version all the way up until the actual game becomes available. But my first impression so far, after seeing this storyline, getting the background of how this project came about, and just seeing it in its creative process through the daily journals, I'm really getting the impression that this game is going off to a very good start. It's going in the right direction that's needed. I don't care how much longer it takes, but hey, they're on the right path. Keep doing what they're doing. I don't care if it takes 5-10 years for this game to come out, as long as they keep working at it. I think you all would be very pleased with this. I highly recommend that you guys check this out. And I'm not a paid spokesperson for these guys. I did tell them, though, I was going to give them a very honest review of the demo. And as I said, first impressions, they're really off to a great start. And I can't wait to see more and what they're able to do with the updates. But go on ahead and check it out. You can go to ProWrestlingX.com and you'll be able to buy the game through there. And they're actually on Kickstarter. So if you want to sit up and donate a good ton of money to them to really help them meet their goal, as really that's what's really going to be having the game be delayed, is if they don't have all the necessary money that they need for the graphics, for their team to be able to get this game out sooner. As right now, I believe they only have about maybe 25% of their overall goal. So whatever you are able to do to help them out, go for it. But trust me, if I'm mentioning them on the show, it's folks that you can trust. You would want to do good business with these guys, because like I said, they're willing to put you in the video game. And I think for that, they want like about $100. I could be wrong, but I believe $100 will get you into the game, and you'll get an actual copy, updates, all that. Really great stuff. Go check it out, ProWrestlingX.com. And if you happen to go to them and you're interacting with them, let them know that Lee of the RCWR Show had mentioned them, that basically I sent you over there, and they'll treat you real good, okay? All right, I got some entertainment news for you guys. It looks like Fat Joe had pleaded guilty earlier last week to charges of tax evasion. Now, depending on the outcome of this, Fat Joe could be facing 2 years in jail. Ouch. And keep in mind that his most recent studio album was the 2010's The Dark Side Volume 1, and his only release since then was a mixtape in 2011 called Dark Side Volume too. So very unfortunate news right there, but it looks like he had failed to pay taxes of millions in dollars from 2007 to 2008. Now his lawyer had issued a statement saying that there were plans on paying back the taxes before his sentencing next April. Got some Rolling Stones news for you guys in case you don't know. Ronnie Wood, he had got married, and guess what? Rod Stewart has served as his best man at the London ceremony. That's right. Ronnie Wood, he married his fiancée, Sally Humphreys, in London last Friday. And this is from a report from The Sun. Last month, the Daily Mail reported that the couple showed up at the British Fashion Awards sporting matching silver bands, thus creating speculation that the two secretly had got married after announcing their engagement back in October. And keep in mind, the Rolling Stones, they just wrapped up their run of a 50th anniversary shows as of December 15th at Newark, New Jersey's Prudential Center. And briefly it had looked like they were listed for Coachella 2013, but since their names have been removed, but big rumor right there that they could be performing there at that venue. Who knows? And for you guys that love your Janet Jackson, or if you're nasty, it's Miss Jackson. Got some disappointing news for you guys. It looks like the 46-year-old singer is going to be tying the knot. Yes, she's engaged to, get this, 37-year-old quadri-billionaire Wasim Almana. Now, this is reported by the U.S. Weekly. Now, keep in mind that with her getting married to this guy, it'll be the third time. So hopefully, third time is the charm. As remember, she had split from James DeBarge and Renee Elizondo. You know, recently in recent years there, she was dating Jermaine Dupri, but she had broke up with him in 2009. So no official date has been laid out for the wedding, but they will be doing it next year. You know, I was going to see this movie in the theaters, and I didn't really care too much of what Spike Lee had to say, but after I heard Quentin Tarantino's take on the whole gun control fiasco that had came about from those Connecticut shootings, I had got a bitter taste in my mouth to the point I just did not want to see this movie in the theaters. But we got Spike Lee, who's calling Quentin Tarantino's latest movie, Django, disrespectful. That's right. Now keep in mind, Spike Lee, he's admitted that he hasn't seen the movie. That is a new Civil War era Western, but he said it's disrespectful to his ancestors. Now, Lee, whose latest film, Red Hook Summer, deals with race and class in South Brooklyn, he said that he has no plans to see Django Unchained, and he elaborated his dissatisfaction on Twitter, stating, and direct quote right here, "American slavery was not a Sergio Leone spaghetti western. It was a Holocaust. My ancestors are slaves stolen from Africa. I will honor them." Now, bear in mind, this isn't the first time that Spike Lee has taken issue with Tarantino's films, as particularly he became very, very public when he had the 1997 film Jackie Brown. As remember with that one, Spike Lee did not like the fact that there were so many uses of the N-word. Now, Lee also spoke out about the film Django, telling Django star Jamie Foxx that he wasn't going to go. As Fox recalled an encounter with Spike Lee at the BET Awards, saying, you know, Spike, he'll let you have it, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And he said, direct quote, I'm going to say anything bad. Well, correction, I'm not going to say anything bad about this film. It looks like y'all getting it. So, very interesting development right here. Looks like it's going to be a really great film. I am usually a big fan of Quentin Tarantino's movies, but hey, I don't know, man. Just his comments from the whole Connecticut shooting thing and the whole gun control, that's just really kind of working me over right now. I don't really think I'm going to be taking the time out to check out that movie. Maybe I can be convinced when it comes out on DVD. Who knows? But for now, it is what it is. All right, girls and guys, that's going to do it for the weekend edition. I want to just take this time out to thank you, once again, the listeners, for really letting your voices be heard, interacting with us, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, Google, or hitting us up when you call into the phone lines. Yeah, interact with us in the chat rooms, you name it. We thank you all so much. Even those of you that post comments on our YouTube videos, our YouTube subscribers, we can't thank you guys enough. It's with your support by subscribing to our channels or commenting on our channels that lets us know that you appreciate our content. And that's actually why we started doing YouTube exclusive for you guys, because we see that you all appreciate what we're uploading. And even the ones on YouTube that might not like our content, that wants to bash it, hey, you checked it out, we thank you for it regardless. We really wouldn't be able to do all this without you all. So once again, humbly, we thank you all. And of course, we thank the great staff of Blog Talk Radio, as they're always willing to go out of their way to feature some of our episodes. Great gesture. They don't have to do it because there's always a ton of other shows that's on the air that they can give that attention to, but they're always nice enough to feature one of our episodes. We're going to be on a little bit of a break for the next few hours, but as I said, we'll be coming on later tonight at 12 a.m. Eastern for the RCWR post show special edition. We're going to cover the fallout from the Extreme Rising pay-per-view. So if you happen to see that pay-per-view and you want to share your like, dislike, reactions to the event, you'll be able to interact with us in our chat room, and you'll be able to call into the show. That's going to do it for now. Until next time around, folks, this is the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. And we will see you later tonight. Hey, the talk of wrestling may end here, but subscribe to us in the iTunes, Zune marketplaces. Use the keywords, the RCWR Show. While you're at it, take the time out to befriend us on Facebook at Infinity One Productions, Twitter at Infinity One Prod. That's going to do it, guys. Be safe and be kind to one another. If we don't hear from you all later tonight for the post show, we will see you in the year 2013 this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern for the wrestling edition of the RCWR Show. Everybody be safe, be kind to one another, take care.